On the 21st of March, China Eastern Airlines flight MU-5735, a Boeing 737-89P aircraft, was en route from Kunming to Guangzhou. About an hour into the journey, the flight lost contact over the city of Wuzhou, located in South China. Minutes later, the plane descended steeply mid-flight and struck the ground at high speed. The aircraft crashed in the mountainous region of Teng County, causing a fire. 123 passengers and 9 crew members were killed.
I heard a loud bang. At that time, some people were doing their work, peeling tree bark. They then put their work down and rushed to see the crash.
It was as loud as the sound of thunder striking. It was two loud sounds.
It is China's deadliest aviation disaster in 28 years. In 1994, 264 people were killed in another China Airlines crash. Lethal crash prompted condolences from around the world. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was among those who condoled the tragedy. Soon after, China Airlines grounded 223 of the 737-800 Boeing aircraft, putting the American aircraft manufacturing company's reputation in the spotlight. Almost 2 years ago, it was the same model that crashed in India too. In August 2020, a 737-800 Boeing Air India Express flight overshot the runway while landing in heavy rain and crashed into a gorge at Calicut International Airport in the southern state of Kerala. 21 people died from the crash, including both pilots. A combination of human errors and infrastructure inadequacies was found to have contributed to the crash. But what could possibly have gone wrong with China's flight?
In this accident, the aircraft was seriously damaged and the investigation was very difficult. At present, the investigation team is carrying out a comprehensive investigation in accordance with the procedures and surveying the scene of the accident.
Chinese authorities promised a thorough investigation last month. They even retrieved both of the black boxes and said they would submit a preliminary report to the International Civil Aviation Organization within 30 days of the event. But less than a month after the crash, China Eastern Airlines has started putting its Boeing 737-800 jetliners back in use for commercial flights. The airline said it had conducted systematic tests, structural checkups, and verified airworthiness data for each of the aircraft, and that test flights would be carried out on all planes before they resumed commercial services. But the question is, how safe are these aircraft? Look at this dramatic visual. Just weeks after the deadly China Eastern Airlines crash, a Boeing cargo airplane broke up during an emergency landing in Costa Rica. The Boeing 757-200 made an emergency landing at the WION Santa Maria International Airport. It skidded off the runway and spun before breaking into two. The plane, operated by German company DHL, lost its tail before smoke started billowing from it. Authorities had to shut the airport for a brief period. Images and videos of the plane skidding soon went viral on social media. The aircraft was bound for Guatemala when it apparently had a failure in the hydraulic system. The issue prompted the pilot to request an emergency landing shortly after takeoff. Fortunately, no one was killed. The aviation giant's reputation has been battered by years of investigations over deadly crashes. Ever since the first Boeing passenger flight in 1928, the aerospace manufacturing company has produced various kinds of aircraft. During the 1990s, it was discovered that Boeing's popular 737 had a problem related to the aircraft's rudder. The 737 MAX has been at the center of the Boeing crisis. The problems with the rudder resulted in various incidents after pilots lost control of their plane following sudden, unexpected rudder movements. How can anyone forget these two crashes? In October 2018 and March 2019, two fatal crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia, respectively, of 737 MAX aircraft led to a worldwide grounding of all 737 MAX aircraft until December 2020.
There was inaccurate sensor data that came into the airplane that there appears to have been a maintenance issue with that sensor. We know that the MCAS software was activated multiple times during that flight, and in the end, that added to the pilot workload.
Boeing should not be allowed to act like a mere investment company, extracting wealth to supercharge shareholder returns at the expense of safety and quality. Their leadership should change in favor of engineering safety focus.
Last year, in January, another Boeing plane crashed near Jakarta, the Indonesian capital. The plane that crashed was a 26-year-old 737-500. All 62 people on board were killed. For the past 2 years, Boeing has been wrestling with problems, big and small. Now, after the China crash, the company finds itself under intense scrutiny once again. China was the first country to ground the 737 MAX after the second of two fatal crashes more than 2 years ago. Why did they bring it back to the skies? Boeing's 737 and Airbus's A320 are workhorses of the world's commercial fleet. Till 2019, Boeing was the largest aerospace company. but after the 737 MAX groundings, it was dethroned by its arch-rival, European aerospace giant. With revenues of $78.9 billion, Airbus soared past Boeing, whose revenue that year was $76 billion. Airbus now commands a 68% share of the total net orders for the two narrow-bodied jets. Airbus too has had its share of crises. According to Airfleets.net's report in 2020, Airbus suffered a total of 86 crashes or accidents between its models. Fewer than just the 147 suffered by Boeing's 737 alone. Remember the engine failures of A320neo engines that were reported in India in 2018 and 2019. One of the biggest Airbus disasters that took place was in 2020 in Pakistan. Inbound from Lahore, an Airbus A320 belonging to Pakistan International Airlines crashed into a residential colony near Karachi on the final approach to Jinnah International Airport. The incident occurred shortly after the engines scraped along the runway in the aborted first landing attempt. "97 people were killed. Miraculously, at least 2 passengers survived. The same year, COVID-19 shut down the world. Airlines across the world were grounded. It was unprecedented. Jobs were lost. The aviation sector suffered heavy financial losses. As the world opens up, aircraft manufacturing companies are gearing up for stiff competition. Airbus and Boeing have dominated the jet airliner market since the 1990s. But the duopoly of Western aircraft manufacturers is under pressure. China has emerged as a massive battleground for both the companies. According to the International Air Transport Association, the country's travel market is expected to surpass the United States by 2024. The country has been pushing ahead with plans to enter the international market and to meet its own rising demand. The state-owned COMAC, or the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, is hoping to deliver its first C919 passenger jet this year, 6 years later than expected. The C919 can seat about 170 passengers and is similar in size to the Airbus 320 and Boeing 737 series of jets. The Chinese planemaker has already produced a regional jet, the ARJ-21, equipped with up to 190 seats. It has now been in service for 6 years. The company also signed a joint venture with Russia's United Aircraft Corporation, another state-owned company, to develop the CR929. The long-range 250 to 320 seat wide-body plane is powered by 2 engines. It was supposed to enter the market by 2025. But with the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and heavy sanctions against Russia imposed by the West, neither of the countries have publicly spoken about their strategy. Right after Vladimir Putin's attack on Ukraine, many aerospace firms suspended their services catering to the Russian aviation industry. Airbus and Boeing halted the supply and delivery of aircraft parts in line with international sanctions. In fact, Boeing is likely to lose about 90 jet orders due to the current war in Europe. Aerospace giants such as Boeing and Airbus are heavily dependent on Russian titanium. Both Ukraine and Russia are significant producers of titanium, a lightweight material that is critical for manufacturing aircraft. Ever since the 2014 annexation of Crimea, Boeing has been stockpiling titanium from the two countries. Right now, it has suspended buying titanium from Russia, even though the material does not come under Biden's sanction plan. Whereas many reports suggest that Airbus is continuing to rely on Russia for its supply of titanium. It's hard to get accurate numbers, but according to experts, Boeing relies on Russia for about 35% of its supply, whereas for Airbus it varies from 50 to 65%. If the West places a sanction on Russia's titanium, Airbus and other manufacturers would find themselves in a very difficult position, whereas Boeing will be able to cruise through with its surplus. So, is Boeing indirectly benefiting from the current Ukraine crisis? Another shocking incident during the war was the destruction of the world's biggest aircraft, the Antonov An225 Maria. The strategic cargo aircraft was designed in the 1980s by the Antonov Design Bureau in the Soviet Union. It had arrived at the Hostomel airport for maintenance in early February, but was damaged when the conflict began a few weeks later in the Battle of Antonov Airport. Named Maria, meaning dream in Ukrainian, it was the heaviest aircraft ever built, with a maximum takeoff weight of 640 tons. It had the largest wingspan of any aircraft in operational service. The aircraft's enormous size drew large crowds wherever it went. Ukraine has vowed to rebuild the giant of the skies. Remember the Malaysian Airlines flight that crashed in July 2014, killing 298 people, including 80 children? The plane crashed in the Donetsk area of eastern Ukraine, a territory controlled by separatists. It was en route from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur when it was accidentally shot with a Russian-made missile, fired by pro-Russian rebels. The current crisis has made these skies unfriendly again. As the war in Ukraine gets bloodier, a growing number of countries are closing their airspace to Russian airlines. The United States, Canada and the UK are among the countries that have shut their airspace for all Russian flights. Additionally, officials for Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, France, Spain, the Netherlands, Italy, Austria, Iceland, Poland, Romania, Finland, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia all separately announced the measures that would further isolate Russia. In retaliation, Russia too prohibited airlines from at least 36 countries, including 27 EU nations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has always been imploring the NATO to impose a no-fly zone over the country to counter the threat from Russian military aircraft. Such a move could drag NATO into a broader war with Russia, and so far, Zelensky's plea has been rebuffed by his Western allies. Russian President Vladimir Putin has also warned that any nation that tried to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine would in effect be participating in the armed conflict. It could put the world on the brink of nuclear war. And that's not all. After 2 years of pandemic, the global air travel industry is bracing up to take another hit. The Russian invasion of Ukraine could impact international air travel, including jet fuel prices, trip duration, and the overall costs.
Masks will be optional this evening for all crew and passengers as well.
But for some, there was reason to cheer. A federal judge in Florida struck down the COVID-19 mask mandate on planes.
Yeah, I'm very happy to not wear a mask. A lot less stressful not having to worry about having a mask for everybody.
However, the U.S. Justice Department appealed the judge's ruling after the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said the measure was still needed. To mask up or not, the confusion persists. The COVID-19 pandemic is in its third year now. Airlines want to drop COVID-19 travel precautions, but is it the right time now? With increasing travel demand, aviation is beginning to rebound. Across the world, passenger numbers are rapidly approaching pre-pandemic levels. But safety must be the #1 priority for all airlines and airline manufacturing companies. Otherwise, the end result is disastrous.